Is this working? Awesome. So it's awesome to be here, and yeah, I'm just blown away by Bali and being connected to all the people that actually want to make remote work possible. Um, I think actually like the whole movement is very early on, and I think like in maybe the next 5 to 10 years, that's where we'll actually take off. So like all of us are kind of like early adopters of like this insane way of working together. But I think, I mean, I have all my life actually worked only as a remote worker, and I feel like this is actually the best way to work together. Yeah. So I want to tell you a bit about our company. So it's called Doist. We have been at it for almost 7 years. I have been actually doing this for almost 10 years. So it's a lot of years of remote work and just like trying different stuff out. And especially with Doist, like we actually challenge the status quo and we try to think from the first principles. So like we don't try to copy others or follow other paths. Um, we are 60 full-time people around the world, so 25 different countries, 10 time zones, and we also have 20 part-time people. And we are best known for creating like one of the most popular to-do apps called Todoist. I'm not sure if you know it, but we are the creators of that. And yeah, like Todoist has like over 15 million people. People have completed over 1 billion tasks soon. So we like to challenge this way that we are communicating today. And we think actually this is not only bad for your productivity, but also for the well-being of you and your people. And I think actually we need to fix this, and not only for work communication, but also like personal communication. But you know, we only want to speak about work, so that will be the focus area. So first of all, like we have experience with many different communication models over the last 7 years, and we actually had a whole year or more with Slack and chat tools. And this talk won't be an attack on Slack, the product, because I think actually it's amazing. It's probably one of the best well-made product there is. The problem with Slack isn't really the product, it's the communication model. And I believe it's actually horribly broken, especially for remote work, but also for regular work. So I will list some issues that we have experienced as a team of maybe 40 people using Slack in a remote setting where we have like people spread around many different time zones and countries. So first of all, like time zones inside a real-time communication system is very problematic. So basically, if you see some of the most successful remote teams right now, most of them are based around a few time zones. And the reason is, I think, is that they require real-time communication. And for us, like we want to hire people, the best people from around the world. So being tied to just like US or Europe isn't really a good idea. And that's basically what we saw. So like, you know, for me personally, it would be very, very hard to disconnect because, you know, Asian people would wake up and I would need to, you know, speak with them. And I couldn't really like do that in like asynchronous way. So the thing I found out is like I was connected all the time. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't relax. So this was like a huge, huge issue for us. Another problem is that chat is very addictive. And, you know, it's like being inside a slot machine where you just have like dopamine hits all day long. And some studies have shown that people like in modern companies spend more than 10 hours per day being connected. And this includes vacations, this includes weekends. And I think actually like, yeah, if you want, you know, to have addicts as your workers, then it's a very good strategy. But I think actually you want to have happy people that that can disconnect, that can be with their family, with their friends, and have a life outside of work. Another problem is also one-line thinking, and this is actually an issue because in chat, like you just have fast lines coming in a conversation, but maybe actually this type of thinking isn't the best thinking. And once I read like the book Deep Work, it actually resonated with me so much, because I think what we need is like more deep thinking and less this shallow thinking where you're just reacting and you don't have time to actually, you know, think about stuff and come back and like provide something that's like very insightful. And right now, like we just promote in both work and personal life this kind of shallow, connections. Yeah. Another thing is like I think team communication is really about like what kind of culture you want to build inside your company. And chat promotes like a fast culture, like a sprint culture. Everything needs to happen as soon as possible. Everything is just like sprinting away. And yeah, like this is great for some things, but I have been at this like for 10 years and sprinting all the time. Like, you will collapse at some point, and so will your people. So what I actually want inside my company is that we can have a sustainable culture where we can work at this like for 20 more years, and I'm happy, and I can spend time with my son, with my wife, with my friends. I can have a life outside of work. Yeah, and I think actually like remote setting is like so perfect for this. So this is like the another issue is like fear of missing out. Like FOMO is real, and if you have like fast communication, then I mean when we use the chat model and like I would sleep so badly because I would wake up and I would actually the first thing I would open is like the chat channel to see like what has been done or yeah. So it's just like a very, very, I think, problematic way of living, and it affects everything. Like, and lastly, chat alone wasn't really enough for us. So you usually mix it with another tool, and what this means is that information is scattered around different tools, and it's basically disorganization, and you can't really like easily. Especially like if you use something like email, you can't easily go back and link to something and see like how was a decision made. And this is especially problematic when you onboard people because like new people need to see the context and to understand like how are a decision made inside your company. Yeah, so this is kind of like the culture of remote work right now, and these are the ads, like real ads of some of the companies, including Microsoft. So basically, they advocate that you work while you're in the VC, that you work while you're vacationing, that you work while you're actually watching your child play, and it's just like that isn't the kind of culture we actually want to promote. And I think this is like, I mean, yeah, I'm really like. Shocked when I see some of these ads. And I think what we actually need to do is like rethink and rebrand remote work. So it isn't like about working from the VC, but actually like about deep work, about connections. And yeah, I think like we have a lot more to offer than this. So that's like I said, like we don't really like the status quo, and we thought about like how would a perfect communication tool look like for remote first companies. So it would actually be built by a remote team to remote teams. Like most of the current tools, like for instance Slack or the Microsoft tools, they are built by office workers, and maybe like I don't think like they can relate to how it is to work in a fully remote environment. So for us, like we really wanted to think about like how would this actually work and think from the first principles instead of just like copying what everybody else is doing. Another thing is asynchronous and mindfulness would be a core focus of this. So this means that you can actually connect to work, do your work, disconnect, go and play with your child or do something else, and then you can like reconnect again later, but you wouldn't like feel out like you're missing out. And another thing is like we wanted to make stuff so it's mindful. So this means like we want to use dark patterns to make the tool as addictive as possible to increase the retention or stickiness of the product, which most of the other tools do. And in general, like I think it's just like sick how we actually optimize currently. Most of our software is basically like the human happiness isn't really taken into consideration. It's just like how much time are you spending inside Netflix? And I think like Netflix had like a quote
the CEO there, like he's competing against sleep, and like yeah. And then we wanted actually something that was like included real threads, and this means that things would like you would have conversations that span over a long period of time, where you have all the discussions, answers, questions, files located in one location, instead of like having this system right now where you have like something in chat, something in email, something in Google Docs, and just like a huge mess, and figure it out like how are decisions made here. And then lastly, I think like this is really important, and this we wanted to promote time off and like the general well-being of people. And I think this is quite broken right now, and I'm actually fearful. Like I will take vacation after this, and when I return back, I will have like hundreds of unreads that I need to go through. And I think like this is one of the reasons why people don't take that much vacation off, because you get more stress when you return back than actually the recharge that you should have while you have been off. So I think actually software, machine learning can actually help this out. So we had all of these ideas, but we tried to look inside the market, and everybody is just like copying Slack and the communication model of real time. And for us, like it was like, why isn't anybody innovating here or challenging the status quo? And that's a good question. Yeah. And then also like email wasn't a solution for us. So we used email in the past, and I think like everybody knows that there's a reason why Slack is so popular right now. And basically like the biggest problem with email for us is like you don't have like a global database for your communication. You can't link to stuff, and it's also like just like outdated protocol. Of course, like there's some solutions here. They try to build stuff on top of email, but yeah. So how would actually our ideal remote communication stack work for us? So basically, it will be asynchronous by default. So this means no online indicators, no pressure of responding right away. And it will also like include the mindfulness aspect, that we want to use dark patterns to actually make people addictive to our software. And then another thing is like, actually we tried this asynchronous approach and we went too far. So I would actually definitely recommend, like, don't go overboard with this. It should be the default way, but still for people, it's very important to actually feel a human connection. So like online meetings and real-time messages are needed. Like you need to sprinkle them in sometimes. And especially like, meetings using Google Hangouts or whatever, or Zoom, are very important to actually build a connection with the people you work with. So that's something I can really recommend, because we went like too far in the asynchronous space, and that does not really work either. So you need to sprinkle in. And lastly, I think you also need to have retreats and face-to-face meetings with people, because we are still humans, and we need the human connection, the human bond. So actually, like for Doist, we do yearly retreats, as many of the other remote companies do. And the reason why we do it is because we build better bonds. And actually, like if you look at some of the remote companies that have like over 50 employees, and also us, like the retention of employees is like over 90%. And for Doist itself, like our retention, employee retention, the last 7 years, it's like over 95%. So basically, nobody really leaves. So this is actually something I think like retreats help a lot, especially if you make them, experience, and not only about work, but like that people can hang out and explore something. Like, for instance, yeah, I know that, yeah. So those are some of the ideas. Yeah. So we have actually worked on such a tool. And for the last 4 years, we have worked on Twist, which is basically an asynchronous tool that's optimized for remote work. And as you see, like we have Android apps, iOS apps, and it's a fully threaded model. Yeah, so we released it like a year ago. And actually, like just creating this tool was kind of insane, because usually it's not really a good idea, because we already had Todoist, and Todoist takes a lot of time, and it's a very big space as well. Like task management and making people more productive is very hard. So actually venturing into this, like that's something we really, it was very hard decision to do. But for us, like we really felt that no other solution could actually solve our problems, and we really needed to do this. So I would also welcome you to actually join us on this journey and try to create a next like generation communication tool, especially made for remote teams and like such as ours. And some of the current stats, like in the last year, we have over 1,000 active teams from all around the world. I think like over 50% of them are actually remote. We have 10,000 active users. And you know, the stat I'm mostly proud about is that we ourselves have added like more than 1 million objects, like comments, files to the system. So this is actually something that we use a lot. Yeah. So that's about it. Yeah, and I think like for us, like it's not really important that you use Twist, but really that we challenge the way that we communicate and that we try to come up with new ways, because I think like communication is really a core part of the whole culture that you have inside of your company. So please, like if you venture into remote work, try to think hard and deep about what kind of culture do you want, and how will you communicate, and what kind of communication do you prefer? Yeah, that's about it.